to destroy Social Security. I am going to leave Social Security. I'm not raising the years. I'm not raising the age. I will be saving Social Security, and I'm going to work it out that there's no tax on Social Security for seniors. I'm also doing no tax on tips. No tax on tips. So waiters, waitresses, caddies, people that drive cars, people that get tips who have been harassed by this government, we're going to have no tax on tips. That's a big thing.
Including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
A few moments later.
That's my bar. Shit. He copied my whole flow.
That's kissed me through the phone.
He copied my whole flow. Word for word, bar for bar.
So, Donna, I want to ask you about something that just came in last night. We saw a big speech in Nevada by Kamala Harris, and she came out for no tax on tips. Where have I heard that before?
Well, look,
it's like one of the few policy specifics that Donald Trump has offered.
And she also gave more details, I think, on how to make that a reality. Look.
Flashback.
Biden seems intent on taking your earnings hostage. Now, the IRS, they just announced this week that they want to start tracking all of the tips that workers earn so that they can be taxed for it. So much for Biden's sacred promise not to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year. Remember, this is all part of Biden's so-called Inflation Reduction Act.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill, as amended, is passed.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Kamala Harris stealing Trump's signature economic policy, which is no tax on tips. Now, the reason why we have to talk about this is because the mainstream liberal media is reacting to Kamala Harris stealing Trump's policy. And, of course, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy because we live in a world where the mainstream liberal media does not engage in journalism anymore. They engage in propaganda on behalf of the Democrat Party. Okay, their analysis really is as simple as whatever Trump does, bad. Whatever Democrats do, good. Okay, and that's exactly how they're covering Kamala Harris stealing Trump's policy. They're not actually being critical of Kamala Harris and questioning why hasn't Kamala Harris done this already? Okay, why does she need to wait until day one in order to get this done when she could at least attempt to do it now, right? In fact, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did the exact opposite in the Inflation Reduction Act that had nothing to do with reducing inflation, by the way. They actually voted to have the IRS crack down on tipped wages, okay? So Kamala Harris and Joe Biden effectively voted for an increase in taxes on lower to medium income workers, right? This is what they did. Now, they promised they wouldn't do that, but they found ways to do that beyond just the outrageous inflation that is happening in this country that, again, really affects low to moderate income workers the most, the middle class the most. Now they said, hey, you know what? We're going to make it even worse, and we're going to start to have the IRS crack down on your tips, okay? Trump says, I want to do the exact opposite. I want you to keep more of your money in your own pocket, okay, and not have to worry about the government coming after you for keeping more of the money that you earned because of your good work that you were rewarded for by customers who were satisfied with your service, okay? And MSNBC just 8 days ago said that this idea was a scam, right? That this was not good policy. And Ali Velshly of MSNBC is going to tell us why this is such a terrible idea. And again, it's just a scam when Trump proposes the idea.
All right, you're going to want to watch and save this segment. It's a fact check on Trump's scam tax policies. This is maybe not for your crazy conspiracy touting uncle. He's a lost cause. But perhaps for the person in your life who doesn't like Trump but is intrigued by this new promise he's just made to give money to grandmas and waitresses via no tax on Social Security for seniors, no tax on tips. Ah, yes, the all caps, no specifics policy. It seems legit. I'm sure Trump thinks it's a lot better than having the media focus on the very specific and detailed Project 2025. Well, here's the actual deal with what Trump is apparently suggesting. It should come as no surprise that the all-caps tax relief that Donald Trump is promising are actually backdoor ways to give rich people big tax breaks. Here's how Donald Trump claims he came up with the idea for no tax on tips at a restaurant in Las Vegas.
The waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips, tips, tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find them? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money, it's just ridiculous. And I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax on tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress.
Yeah, so you know why waitresses are complaining about this right now? Because this is what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden wanted, right? This is a part of their policy because generally speaking, okay, before the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of people weren't really paying taxes on tips, okay? The IRS probably wasn't cracking down like that, right? They weren't really trying to go after people who weren't paying their taxes on their tips. But again, that changed when the Inflation Reduction Act was passed by Democrats. Now, again, Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote for the Inflation Reduction Act that made the IRS start cracking down on tips. So it's no surprise that Trump is hearing complaints from waitresses about the IRS going after service workers over tips, okay? Because that is what the Biden administration instructed the IRS to do, to crack down on service workers earning tips. So again, it's just funny how that works. That's what makes Kamala Harris stealing Trump's policy so egregious. And that's why it's also so fake, and people should be educated about this, that not only is she lying about it, but she also is the reason why the IRS is cracking down more on tip earners.
That the supposed waitress addressed him as sir is the first tell that the story might not be on the level. But here's the thing. Trump's proposal isn't actually about a few bucks on a diner meal. An analysis from the Center on American Progress finds, quote, the tax cuts it would provide low and moderate wage tipped workers would be small or non-existent, and it contains few, if any, guardrails to prevent high income professionals, such as hedge fund managers, from shifting their compensation to a tax-free tipping model, end quote.
Yeah, so again, I want to show you just how ridiculous MSNBC is, okay? Because this is not Trump's plan. If you read the fine print, okay, Senator Ted Cruz's No Tax on Tips Act does little for low and moderate wage workers, but opens door to tax abuse by wealthy. Okay, so this is not Trump's plan, right? Doesn't matter what's actually in this piece of legislation, okay? This is not Trump's plan, but this guy just peddled a plan that's not Trump's plan as Trump's plan. But this is not Trump's plan, right? Just so that he could trash it and say that Trump's plan is a scam, but this is not Trump's plan, right? This is why MSNBC is not a news network, guys, right? Like, this is not a news network. Like, this is straight propaganda, okay? And they're not even good at it. This is a classic straw man. But anyways, this is the coverage of no tax on tips, okay? When Trump proposed the policy, right? This is what MSNBC had to say. Now, mysteriously, this guy did not have anything to say about Kamala Harris and her proposal. He didn't come out and call it a scam, even though he did a show about the Las Vegas rally that Kamala Harris did. And her only policy proposal during that rally was still in Trump's policy. But for whatever reason, he is silent on this, right? He doesn't really have anything to say. But there are other MSNBC hosts who had something to say about Kamala Harris stealing Trump's policy, and now all of a sudden this policy is great and it helps the middle class and lower wage workers, according to this MSNBC host.
And then the folks are hearing tangible policies. I know Donald Trump, saying that the vice president copied him, but this tipped wage piece is there's bipartisan movement here for this. Tipped wage workers are very important. Obviously, the backbone of the economy, specifically in a place like Las Vegas. And this is just one of those economic policies that will go to the heart of doing something directly for people that they can feel. I know that there's reporting that the vice president is going to unveil more of her policy prescriptions when it comes to the economy in the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us as a little preview to that?
Well, the vice president has always said that she had a focus on the middle class and those that were aspiring to be in the middle class. And so eliminating taxes on tips will help people that go to work every day and bust their butts to keep food on the table, clothes on their back, and a roof over their head. And this is going to be a significant impact. And this is also part of talking to people and uplifting families. So it's very consistent, and she will lay out more of an economic policy agenda.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, as far as I know, there's no footage of Ali Belshny trashing Kamala Harris proposing no tax on tips the way that he did when Trump proposed the policy. I'm also not aware of Simone Sanders praising Trump when he came out with the policy, like she's praising Kamala Harris right now for coming out with the policy. Again, it's funny how that works. It's almost as if MSNBC is not a news organization, but instead a propaganda network for the Democrat Party. Because it seems when it comes to economic policies, MSNBC is not operating in reality, because they tell us all the time that the Democrats and Biden and Kamala Harris's economic policies, oh, they're good for the middle class and for lower wage workers, right? When the exact opposite of that is true. In reality, as a result of Biden and Kamala's economic policies, we've seen a tax increase on the lower income and middle income workers, mainly through inflation. We already talked about how Kamala Harris and Joe Biden signed off on trying to send the IRS after tip workers, right? They've done that, okay? They've actively tried to tax the lower and middle class. However, under the Trump administration, what MSNBC was telling us is that, well, Trump's tax cuts only benefited the rich, even though we know for certain that's not true, because even according to IRS data, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 did exactly what Republicans said it would do, which was to cut taxes for all income brackets, which it did. Okay, up to 80% of taxpayers had lower taxes. Okay, their taxes were lowered as a result of Trump's policy. It spurred economic growth by also cutting corporate taxes as well, too, that incentivize companies to invest more in their workers, okay? It massively benefited the middle class, okay? That is what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was. This is why Trump's economy was booming going into the pandemic, because his economic policy worked, okay? It largely benefited the middle class. But again, that's the exact opposite of what you hear on NBC. Oh, all of the benefits went to the rich. Only the rich got richer under Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Again, that's just the exact opposite of the reality, right? It really is, okay? But yet, when it comes to Biden and Harris, they're fighting for the lower income and the middle class. It's like, no. Taxes for the lower income and middle class, they have went up under Democrats. So you know what Democrats want to do? They want to let Trump's tax cuts expire, right? They want to raise your taxes, okay? Because they don't want to extend those tax cuts. So again, that is what you're voting for if you vote for Kamala Harris. If you vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you're voting for a tax increase, straight up, right? She's not going to get rid of tax on tips. She's not going to do that. She's actually going to increase your taxes by allowing Trump's tax cuts to expire. This is what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to do. But again, these clowns, again, they live in a world where everything Trump does is just bad. Bad by definition, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Kamala Harris promises to do the exact same thing, and all of a sudden it's great. This is amazing. This helps lower income and middle class workers, right? It's just funny how that works. Again, MSNBC, full-blown propaganda. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.